My best friend said the class heartthrob who's been pursuing me is a jerk and told me not to get involved with him. I took my best friend's advice and turned down the class heartthrob's confession. But my best friend turned around and comforted the class heartthrob, saying that my personal life was scandalous and that I wasn't worthy of his affection. Later, the class heartthrob started dating my best friend and began spreading dirty rumors about me all over the school. My best friend defended me while spilling the beans. In the end, I became the center of a school-wide scandal, was bullied, and died by jumping off a building due to depression. After being reborn, I found myself back on the very first day the rumors began to spread. This time, I'm going to tear away my best friend's facade with my own hands and make her taste what it's like to be bullied. As I walked into the classroom, the noisy room fell briefly silent. Then, right in front of me, the students started talking loudly among themselves, making sarcastic and mocking remarks about me. I heard that Tang Shui got into a luxury car after evening study hall yesterday. Wow, she looks like such a good girl. I never would have guessed she's so wild behind closed doors. When my best friend Hao Qian saw me walk in, she rushed to my defense. You've got the wrong idea. Maybe, just maybe, that's one of Shui's elders. An elder? Humph. I'd say he's more like a godfather. Gua Hao, our class president, shot me a disgusted look, then gazed at Hao Qian with a mix of affection and concern. Qian, don't make excuses for her anymore. Hao Qian looked at me innocently, as if she had endured a great deal for my sake. But I walked straight past her and said to Hao Qian, coldly and indifferently, move out of the way. You're blocking my path. Hao Qian looked at me with a hurt expression. Shui, what's wrong with you? I pushed her aside and sat down in my seat. Looking at the familiar faces and objects in the classroom, I felt a bit sentimental. It feels so good to be reborn. The rumors about me started spreading today. After evening study hall yesterday, my mom's boyfriend, my future stepfather, drove up to school in a luxury car to pick me up and take me home. I told Hao Qian about this. She's my best friend. But she immediately spread the story around the class, and then throughout the entire school, claiming that I was a materialistic woman who sold my body for money. Later, Hao Qian set the record straight with others on behalf of my best friend. But between the lines, they were insinuating that I led a promiscuous private life, and even spreading rumors that I was having an inappropriate relationship with my stepfather. The more I try to explain, the worse it gets. I was bullied at school. At the time, I didn't dare tell my family, for fear of spoiling my mother's newlywed happiness. In the end, I became so depressed that I jumped to my death. Afterward, my mother was overcome with grief and felt terrible about what she had done to me. After breaking up with my stepfather, she took an overdose of pills and killed herself. My mother and I depended on each other for support. We suffered for half our lives, only to have it all ruined by Hao Qian's loose tongue. In this life, I don't want to be a coward anymore. I'm going to expose Hao Qian's true colors to the whole school and make her taste what it's like to be bullied. In my past life, before the rumors started, Gua Hao, the class heartthrob, confessed his feelings to me. Gua Hao is the class president. He gets good grades and is handsome. So many girls in the class have a crush on him. After he confessed his feelings to me, I was a little at a loss. So I quietly told my best friend, Hao Qian, and asked her if I should say yes. After hearing this, Hao Qian thought about it for a moment and told me that Gua Hao was a scumbag. He'd gotten a classmate pregnant in high school. And in college he was always hitting on younger female students, and she warned me not to go out with Gua Hao under any circumstances. But the very next day after I turned Gua Hao down, Hao Qian started acting flirty with him. Then, rumors about me started spreading around the class. It wasn't until I was reborn that I finally understood. Hao Qian was jealous that Gua Hao liked me, so she deliberately tried to convince me to reject him, while she went behind my back to comfort him. And he spread rumors about my character in front of Gua Hao. The fact that my stepfather picked me up in a luxury car became the definitive proof she used to spread rumors about me. Led by Gua Hao, the students in my class subjected me to the first round of bullying. Then, thanks to Gua Hao spreading the word, the whole school found out about my scandal. In this life, I will seek revenge, and the first person I'll use is him, Gua Hao. During class, The teacher asked the students to form groups of 3 to work on the project together. Hao Qian, Gua Hao, and I are in the same group. In that class in my past life, because I was the target of rumors, I was so caught up in my sadness that I didn't take the opportunity to clear my name. In this lifetime, I must seize this opportunity. During the group discussion, just as he had in his past life, Gua Hao took the initiative to approach Hao Qian. "Cici, I really don't want to talk to someone like Tang Shui. Let's just ignore her and do it ourselves." Hao Qian gave me a sympathetic look, appearing hesitant. "Well, I don't think that's a good idea." Before she could continue playing the role of the kin person, I walked over to them on my own. I ignored Hao Qian and instead looked timidly at Gua Hao, asking softly, "Class president, is there anything I can do to help? I inherited my mom's good looks, so when it comes to looks, I'm way better than a lot of other girls." Gua Hao confessed his feelings to me, no doubt because he thinks I'm pretty and have a gentle nature. Now, as I gazed gently at his face, showing him my vulnerability, he actually seemed a little flustered. Tang Shui, since you're here, why don't you go ahead and organize these problems?" Gua Hao paused for a moment, then spoke to me with feigned indifference. He was clearly holding himself back, not wanting to do anything that would make him look foolish. After all, he was the one who had mocked me the loudest in class. Seeing this, Hao Qian's expression suddenly darkened. She bit her lip tightly, remained silent for a few seconds, and then suddenly reached out to touch Gua Hao's book. I accidentally brushed against his hand. Hao Qian blushed and shyly pulled her hand back. "Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you about this problem." Gua Hao looked at her bashful expression. His eyes flickered, and he was just about to speak. I deliberately leaned in, picked up Gua Hao's book to look at it, and then glanced curiously at Hao Qian. "Hao Qian, didn't the teacher just explain this problem? How could you have forgotten it?" I looked her over for a few seconds before it suddenly dawned on me. "Oh, I remember now. You don't have the best memory, otherwise you wouldn't have forgotten. It was my dad who picked me up after evening study yesterday." "Hey, you knew that all along." I looked at Hao Qian, my words tinged with a sense of grievance and resentment. Gua Hao paused for a moment when he heard this, then looked at me in surprise and asked, "Was it your dad who picked you up in that luxury car last night?" "That's right." I nodded cutely. Gua Hao just loves these innocent, kind little flowers. I walked up to Hao Qian and asked her in a pouting, aggrieved tone, "Qian, why didn't you explain things to the class monitor for me?" "Oh, is that your dad? Didn't your dad pass away?" Hao Qian glanced at Gua Hao, forced a few nervous laughs, and kept playing dumb. I pinched myself hard under the table, and tears instantly welled up in my eyes, making my eyes red and puffy, just like a little bunny's. "Yeah, my dad passed away when I was around 5. This is my stepdad. You're my best friend, you know all about this. So why are you acting like you don't know now?" I squeezed out a few more tears, looked at Gua Hao with a hurt expression, and said pitifully, "Class president, you're the one our classmates trust the most. I'll have my dad pick me up later, and you can come over to my house. You'll see for yourself. My stepdad is such a nice guy." Seeing that my gaze was sincere and didn't seem feigned, Gua Hao was actually a little taken aback. Seeing me like this, Hao Qian, who was standing nearby, suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. She was desperate to cut off my contact with Gua Hao in order to maintain the trust he had in her. "Schwer, did I hear that right? Did you ask the class monitor to meet your stepfather?" Hao Qian asked suspiciously. I know she assumed my relationship with my stepfather was just so she invited Gua Hao over to our house. Perhaps she was testing Gua Hao to see which way he'd lean. But she was wrong. In her past life, she would have been absolutely right to think that way. Back then, I had a hard time accepting that my mom was with my stepdad, and I was worried he wouldn't treat me well, so I often complained to Hao Qian. However, now that I've been reborn, not only am I no longer afraid of my stepfather, but I'm actually filled with gratitude toward him. In my previous life, after I died, I became a spirit. When I saw my mom swallow the pills, my stepfather was in so much pain he was nearly driven mad. He went to the school in person, put pressure on the administration, and demanded that they provide an explanation regarding my situation. Eventually, the school discovered that Hao Qian had been spreading rumors, and she was ultimately expelled. It was only then that I realized what she was really like. In this life, not only will I not worry about my stepfather marrying my mom, but I'll actually take good care of them and love them. Class president, please introduce me to my stepdad. Otherwise, my classmates will start spreading rumors about me. I tugged at Guohao's arm eagerly and gave it a little shake, looking just like a little girl begging a boy for help. Guohao felt the soft, delicate touch on his arm. A faint blush spread across his face. He looked at me and nodded. All right, I'll go with you at noon. If what you're saying is true, I'll clear your name. I gave him a sweet smile and thanked him. The look in Guohao's eyes changed once again, as if I had bewitched him. Standing nearby, Hao Qian was so jealous her eyes were practically shooting fire. Before long, the class was over. The bell rang to signal the end of class, and I took my books and returned to my seat. Hao Qian came over to my seat, acting as if we were close friends, and teased me with a smile. Schwerer, have you changed your mind? Do you want to be with Guohao now? I tilted my head to look at her and suddenly smiled. That's right, the class president is tall, handsome, and rich. I think I'm going to try to date him. Hao Qian's expression froze. She hadn't expected me to be so blunt. She glanced around, leaned in a little closer to me, as if she were about to share some important secret. Looking at her, I knew she was about to fall into the trap. I quietly pressed the button on my cell phone, which was hidden inside the desk, and started recording. Sure enough, Hao Qian couldn't hold back any longer and began to urge me on with genuine sincerity. Schwerer, have you forgotten what I told you last time? Guohao got a female classmate pregnant back in high school, and he used his family's influence to force her to drop out. Before he confessed his feelings to you, he'd already confessed to 5 younger female students. He's a real womanizer behind the scenes. You absolutely mustn't fall for him. I feigned hesitation and asked timidly, but I don't think the class monitor is that kind of person. Someone must be spreading rumors about him, right? This isn't a rumor. The girl Guohao was messing around with is my childhood friend. Hao Qian, afraid I wouldn't believe her, blurted out. And there are those 5 underclassmen. I saw him confess his feelings to each of them with my own eyes. 2 are from the arts troupe. 2 are underclassmen from our college. And 1 is Fu and I from our class. To make her story more credible, she even dragged Fu and I, the class beauty, into it. Fu and I is the class's true rich, beautiful, and privileged girl. She joined her family's company to build her career as soon as she started college and rarely attends classes. By making up this lie, Hao Qian was counting on the fact that Fu and I doesn't really socialize with her classmates, and I have no way to disprove it. I covered my mouth dramatically. Oh my gosh. Guohao confessed his feelings to Fu and I from our class. 2. That's right. Seeing that I believed her, Hao Qian pressed her advantage. Fu and I dated him for a while, and he tricked her into going to a hotel with him several times. But since Fu and I is, after all, a rich girl, she dumped him once she got bored with him. That's when he came to confess his feelings to you. I can barely keep from laughing out loud. I had originally planned to get Hao Qian to admit to slandering Guohao, but I didn't expect her to go so far as to spread sexual rumors about Fu and I as well. Fu Ni's family is not to be messed with. If she finds out that Hao Qian has been smearing her for Guohao's sake, who knows how she'll deal with Hao Qian? I suppressed the secret delight I felt deep down and nodded, half convinced. Wow, Guohao is such a jerk. Thank goodness I listened to you last time and turned him down, otherwise. I pretended to be startled and said gratefully, I'm sorry. She. I almost fell for Guohao's trick. You should stay away from him from now on. 2. I'm afraid he might do something to you again. When Hao Qian saw that I believed her, she was overjoyed. Speaking as if she had my best interests at heart, she patted my hand. I was afraid he'd cause you trouble, so I deliberately got close to him. Actually, the rumor from yesterday was spread by Guahao. I tried to explain it to him, but he wouldn't listen. So I had no choice but to build a good relationship with him first, and then clear your name. I'm doing all this for your own good. As she spoke, Hao Qian remembered that I was going to take Guahao to meet my stepfather at lunchtime, so she quickly added, you're not really going to take Guahao to meet your stepdad at lunchtime, are you? However, before she could finish speaking, the bell rang to signal the start of class. I urged her to return to her seat, then quietly took out my phone and checked the time. I recorded it all. Let's see how you try to wriggle out of this. Next, I sent Mom a text message. Hao Qian, just wait, my time to hunt you down is coming. Before long, it was time for school to let out at noon. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked over to Guahao, calling out sweetly, Guahao, let's go. Guahao still harbors some resentment toward me. He hesitated for a few seconds before slowly getting to his feet. Is your stepdad here to pick you up? Yeah. Just then, Hao Qian, who was sitting in the back seat, saw that Guahao and I were about to walk home together, and she panicked. Schwer, have you forgotten what I told you? Hao Qian anxiously pulled me aside and whispered in my ear. I glanced at Guahao, who was waiting over there, gave a cold laugh, and then said, I wasn't thinking anything else, I just wanted Guahao to help me prove my innocence. But Hao Qian was terrified that I would be alone with Guahao. She bit her lip, her expression shifting constantly, and said with difficulty, Schwer, I'll clear your name. Don't believe Guahao. But I shook my head, pretending to be stubborn. Didn't you say he was spreading rumors about me behind my back? I have to make him come forward and set the record straight. Thank you. After saying that, I ignored Hao Qian's attempts to stop me and led Guahao toward the school gate. Guahao walked beside me, watching my composed demeanor as his expression shifted back and forth. He, too, began to suspect that he had misunderstood me. As we walked, I pretended to ask him casually, Class monitor, if we could prove that it was my dad last night, you'd help me clear things up with my classmates and clear my name, right? Yeah. Guahao glanced at me briefly. Tang Shui, don't worry. If it turns out to be a rumor, I'll tell you who's behind it. Clearly, his heart has gradually been leaning toward me. Before long, we reached the school gate, where my stepdad's flashy Rolls-Royce was parked. I specifically asked my mom to call my stepdad over. Guahao and I walked over. Just then, the car door opened, and my handsome stepdad and beautiful mom got out. They were walking arm in arm. What a handsome couple. When Guahao saw this, he was completely stunned. He had seen this car and this man on Hao Qian's phone before. It was clearly the person who took me away during evening study hall yesterday. Class president, this is my dad and my mom, I said with a smile, introducing them on my own. My stepdad raised his eyebrows slightly, looking a bit surprised at what I called him. My mother's face lit up with surprise and emotion. She glanced at Guahao before saying, Schwer, this is your classmate. What should we call him? Hello, uncle and aunt. I'm Guahao. I'm Tang Shui's class monitor. Guahao quickly realized what was happening and frantically greeted them. At that moment, he became convinced that the rumor about me being a kept woman was just that, a rumor, and that he was the one who had started it in the first place. So at that moment, he felt ashamed and didn't know how to face me. Mom warmly invited Guahao, saying, Class president, Schwer told me you're always helping her at school. I'd like to thank you for that. Why don't you come over for lunch? Faced with my mother's kindness, Guahao felt even more ashamed. His face flushed red and then turned pale. He gave me an apologetic look, then shook his head. I'm sorry. I just remembered I have something else to do, so I won't keep you any longer. Tang Shui, I'll keep our promise. I tried to persuade him a few more times, but Guahao still refused. He seemed a little flustered. I know it's about time. Hao Qian, who was watching from a distance, was probably dying of curiosity. It's time to take the next step. I told my parents to get in the car first and wait for me, while Guo and I stayed where we were. Guo felt even more guilty. Looking into my sincere eyes, he lowered his head. I'm sorry, Tang Shui. Class president. I know you're a good person. I took a step toward him, coming within less than half a meter of him. I whispered, I've been hesitating for a long time, but I still want to ask you this in person. Class president, were you serious when you confessed your feelings to me last time? Guo froze for a moment, his face flushing bright red as he stared at me in disbelief, his eyes sparkling with delight. Swear, of course it's true. I like you. Guo is a fickle person. Seeing that I'd given him a chance, he started setting his sights on me again. I'm way prettier than Hao Qian. Not to mention I now have a wealthy stepdad, so Guo's excitement came as no surprise to me. As I kept track of the time, Hao Qian, who had been lurking in the shadows, finally couldn't hold back any longer and rushed forward. She grabbed my hand and asked excitedly, Swear, why didn't you keep your word? I was taken aback for a moment. She then cast a pitiful glance at Guo and said, sounding aggrieved, but I don't think the class monitor is the kind of person you're describing. Guo sensed something was off. Seeing Hao Qian's flustered expression, he furrowed his brow and pressed her. What kind of person am I? It's just. I hesitated, not quite sure whether to say it or not. Hao Qian's expression had completely changed. She kept giving me subtle glances, trying to dissuade me from revealing the truth. I deliberately pretended to be scared, as if I had been intimidated. She carefully hid behind Guo. Seeing this, Guo's gaze toward Hao Qian grew increasingly hostile, and he shot her a wary glare. He asked me gently again, don't be afraid. Go ahead and tell me. At that moment, it felt as if I finally had someone to rely on, so I lifted my innocent face and asked with innocent curiosity. Class president, she said you slept with several girls. I don't know if it's true. When Hao Qian saw that I had actually asked the question, she rushed forward in a panic, trying to cut me off. Tang Shui, what nonsense are you talking about? I shrank my shoulders and said pitifully, she, don't worry. I just want to hear the class president's explanation for myself. If what you're saying is true, I'll do as you say and turn him down. Guo's expression suddenly turned menacing as he glared fiercely at Hao Qian. What exactly did you say? No, I didn't. Tang Shui is just talking nonsense. Class president, have you forgotten what kind of woman she is? Thinking about how kind my mom had been to him just a moment ago, Guo was livid. Hao Qian, I haven't even confronted you yet about the rumors you spread about Shui. Seeing Guo's angry expression, Hao Qian became even more adamant that I was making it all up, and she burst into tears. Feeling wronged, she was convinced that I was just talking out of thin air, and that what I just said had no impact on her. But the very next second, her expression changed completely. That's because I played the recording from my phone of her spreading rumors about Guo. Every word Hao Qian spoke came through clearly and distinctly to Guo. Hao Qian panicked. Guo was furious. Guo's face flushed with anger as he glared menacingly at Hao Qian. Hao Qian, what kind of nonsense are you spouting? No, that's not what I said. Tang Shui, why did you? Hao Qian tried to pin the blame on me, but unfortunately my recording was too complete. It even captured the class bell ringing. Guo rushed straight up to Hao Qian and grabbed her by the collar, snarling, Hao Qian, you're the one who falsely accused Shui in the first place, and you actually tried to pin it on me? You're shameless. Hao Qian turned pale with fear and struggled to explain. No, I'm being framed. Watching the scene unfold before me, I found it utterly uninteresting. Ignoring the two of them, I walked over and got into my stepdad's Rolls-Royce. On the way there, I took the initiative to talk to my stepdad. He seemed a little surprised, but Mom was much happier. I arrived at my stepfather's mansion. My stepdad hesitated for a moment before saying to me, Shui, my niece wants to come over for dinner today. Do you mind? In my past life, I witnessed my father's deep love for my mother. I also know that he sacrificed a great deal to avenge me and Mom. At that moment, I felt so grateful to my stepdad, especially since whenever his niece came over for dinner, he would always ask me, his stepdaughter, how I felt about it, which really showed just how kind-hearted he was. "I don't mind, Dad." I smiled at my stepdad to show him I was friendly. When he heard me call him Dad again, my stepfather seemed a little pleased, and there was a hint of warmth in the way he looked at me. Half an hour later, after the maid finished preparing dinner, Mom accompanied her stepfather as they brought his niece home. When I saw that girl, I froze. I never would have guessed that my stepdad's niece was actually her. Fu and I looked me over, but didn't recognize me at first. It wasn't until I went up to her and said hello that she remembered we were in the same class. Fu and I is a rich, beautiful girl who doesn't really socialize with her classmates, so naturally she didn't have much of an impression of me. In my past life, because I resented my stepfather, I didn't have much contact with his family. Naturally, he had no idea that he and Fu and I were connected in this way. "So it's you, Tang Shui. What a coincidence." Fu and I greeted me with a smile. By then, she hadn't been to school for half a month, so naturally she hadn't heard the rumors about me. I responded politely as well, perhaps to be considerate and spare me any embarrassment. She took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me about things happening in our class. As soon as we started talking, we realized that we actually shared the same views on many things. Our values and tastes were surprisingly similar. My stepdad and mom are really happy to see us getting along so well. After dinner, let me go upstairs to the bedroom with Fu and I to play. Fu and I didn't really interact much before, but now that we're chatting, I've realized she's not nearly as aloof as I thought. In fact, he has a very interesting personality in private. The atmosphere between us was growing more and more harmonious, and at that moment, I hesitated about whether to tell Fu and I that Hao Qian had been spreading rumors about her. After all, I don't know if Hao Qian made up that rumor on the spot just to make me believe her, or perhaps Hao Qian had already been spreading rumors about Hao Qian behind her back. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was Hao Qian calling. Seeing the calls coming in one after another, I could even imagine how angry Hao Qian must be. "You take it. I'm going back to my room." Fu and I thought I wasn't answering the phone because she was there. I quickly called out to her, told her it was fine, and then answered the phone. "Tang Shui, how could you become so devious? I told you out of the goodness of my heart, but you betrayed me. And to think I considered you my best friend, you've really gone too far. I'm warning you, you'd better explain everything clearly to Guahao, or I'll make sure you never recover from this." A barrage of insults and abuse reached Fu Ni's ears through the receiver. Fu and I frowned in displeasure. She was the kind of person who always got even. When she thought about the fact that I was her uncle's stepdaughter, she couldn't help but want to yell back at him on my behalf, especially since Hao Qian actually dared to speak to me that way. I quickly stopped her and said coldly into the phone, "Well, go ahead and try." Even though Hao Qian knows I have something on her, she still dares to yell at me like that. It seems she really does think I'm a pushover. No wonder, in my past life, I was introverted and had only one friend, Hao Qian. But now, things are different. When Fu and I saw that I had hung up the phone, she couldn't help but speak up on my behalf. "Who is this woman? How dare she pick on someone from the Fu family? Swear, don't be afraid of her. I'll take care of that bitch for you." Seeing Fu Ni's face turn bright red with anger, I felt a little touched. Throughout my life, apart from my mom, no one has ever treated me with such sincerity or stood up for me like that. When Fu and I saw that I wasn't saying anything, she thought I was too afraid to speak. She took my hand and whispered, "Swear, don't be afraid. If you're having any trouble, just tell me, I'll help you." At that moment, I finally decided to take the initiative and tell Hao Qian about the rumors she had spread about me. After listening to the recording, Fu and I was so angry that her eyes turned red. "That's outrageous. She's a girl herself. Doesn't she realize how cruel it is to spread those rumors about other girls? And she even dared to spread rumors about me. She must be tired of living." I comforted Fu and I and quietly told her my plan. Upon hearing this, Fu Ni's anger turned to joy. and she insisted on joining in on the drama of taking down that two-faced girl. I agreed with a smile. The next day, Fu and I showed up in the classroom together, right in front of Hao Qian. Fu and I got into a huge argument over a book. Fu and I said right in front of the whole class that she was going to make me pay. I saw Hao Qian's scheming, malicious smile in the corner of the classroom. She'd found someone to back her up. During recess, Hao Qian walked over to Fu and I and whispered something to her, speaking with great indignation. Fu and I nodded in agreement, looking as if she wholeheartedly agreed. I chuckled to myself. I had thought it would take some effort to trick Hao Qian, but I never expected her to take the bait on her own. Just as I was watching the commotion, my other fish took the bait. Guo Hao looked at me with adoring eyes, walked over, and sat down next to me. Schwer class president. Thank you for explaining things to my classmates for me. They didn't talk about me at all today. I looked at him with admiration, my eyes filled with gratitude. Guo Hao waved his hand grandly and said with a smile, "It's the least I can do, Schwerer." Looking at the smile on his face, I felt a wave of nausea. In his past life, he believed Hao Qian's one-sided account and slandered me, spreading rumors throughout the entire school. He was the one who directly bullied me. At that moment, he still thought he had saved me and was feeling quite smug. Little did he know that all I could think about was taking wild revenge on him. After that, Guo Hao began pursuing me relentlessly. I deliberately kept him in suspense, making him more and more obsessed with me. Even if I made him run 3 li in the pouring rain to buy me an ice cream, he'd do it gladly. But I know he doesn't like me, he just likes my stepdad's money. Because I always end up showing off my wealth without meaning to, talking about how good my stepdad is to me, he gets even more enthusiastic and keeps telling me to be nicer to my stepdad. Meanwhile, Fu and I and Hao Qian became best friends. Hao Qian often spreads rumors about me to Fu and I, claiming that I've slept with almost everyone in the entire college, and even cited a few upperclassmen and underclassmen as examples, all of whom I've only met a few times. But she secretly took photos of them, photoshopped them into risky images, and used AI to swap their faces to create videos. These past few days, Fu Ni's anger has reached a fever pitch, but after I talked her into it, she's been swallowing her pride and gathering evidence. Finally, Fu and I gathered all of Hao Qian's incriminating evidence and sent it to me. After I finished reading it, I forwarded it right away to Guo Hao. Class president, after spending so many days with you, I feel that you really are a guy I can count on. But now that Hao Qian has smeared me like this, I'm really upset. Could you help me set the record straight for the whole school, so everyone can see her true colors? Guo Hao took the document, opened it, and read it and was furious. At the same time, I felt a secret sense of joy. Finally, I get to latch onto this cash cow. All I have to do is complete this tiny, righteous task. Why not? By then, he'll have become the son-in-law of a wealthy man and a hero who exposed corruption. How wonderful. Guo Hao had a wide network of contacts at college, and before long, he had mobilized all of them. He sent this evidencito the email inboxes of everyone at the school. They didn't even spare the school's forum. I'm determined to make sure every student at the school knows about this. In the blink of an eye, the rumors and slander spread by Hao Qian against me caused quite a stir, and the whole school found out about it. As I looked at the email on my phone, my eyes began to well up. In a past life, Guo Hao, with Hao Qian egging him on, is how they ruined my life. In this lifetime, it's her turn. She finally got a taste of the pain and despair I had endured. But that's not enough. After the mass email was sent, the entire school began to boycott Hao Qian. It caught the attention not only of the entire student body but also of the teachers and the principal. And soon after, the story made its way onto the internet. A wave of online harassment against Hao Qian began. I never would have thought that another girl would spread such a malicious rumor. Fire this woman. That's so mean. I go to this school, and I can vouch for this. This woman is best friends with the girl who's being slandered. That's so mean. Hao Qian could hardly stand being at school anymore. Whenever she went out, people would surround her and yell at her. There were even people from nearby schools who came over to yell at her. But at that moment, Hao Qian had nowhere to hide. Hao Qian was born into a family that favored sons over daughters and lived in poverty. She didn't dare go home for fear her family would find out about this. So she had no choice but to hide and avoid seeing anyone. At the same time, I was incredibly popular. Many of my classmates felt sorry for me and wrote me letters of comfort. Fu and I was also happy that my good name had been cleared. Schwerer. That's great, Hao Qian really has it coming. Hao Qian has been calling me non-stop these past few days, begging me to lend her money so she can get out of town for a while. Humph. But I ignored her. I smiled and shook my head, then leaned in close to Fu Ni's ear and whispered a few words. Fu Ni's eyes lit up, and she gave me a thumbs up. I smiled to myself. The best part is just about to begin. The following evening, I arranged to meet Guo in the small grove on campus. Guo was dressed to the nines, wearing men's cologne, and waiting for me there with an expectant look on his face. Meanwhile, Fu and I hid off to the side and watched quietly. 10 minutes later, we saw Hao Qian, wearing sunglasses and a mask, fully disguised and sneaking up on us. The moment she saw Guo, she was so furious she began to tremble all over. And she pounced on him like a female leopard. I was wondering why Tang Shui suddenly started using her brain. So it was you bastard, helping her behind the scenes. Do you realize that you've ruined my life? The school says they're going to expel me. My classmates are bullying me, and people online are insulting me. You bastard. I hate you. Hao Qian scratched Guo like a madwoman. When Guo saw her, his face darkened with anger, and he shoved her hard. You ruined Schwerer, you deserve everything that's happening to you today. The two quickly began to wrestle. Although Guo is a boy, he hasn't done any physical labor since he was little, so he isn't very strong. Hao Qian has been helping her family farm since she was a child, and she's incredibly strong. For a moment, it was too close to call. Guo had several bloody scratches on his face, and a tuft of his hair had been yanked out, streaked with blood. Hao Qian had been kicked several times. Her hair was a mess, and there was blood on the corner of her mouth. As I watched this scene unfold, I felt an immense sense of satisfaction. In my previous life, I stood on the rooftop in despair, feeling as if all the light had been drained from the world. In this life, I've finally lived as my true self. Guo and Hao Qian were fighting more and more fiercely. Finally, Guo threw Hao Qian into the water and stumbled away with his legs clamped together. Fu and I saw Hao Qian bobbing up and down in the water. She didn't seem to know how to swim, and looked at me hesitantly. What should we do? Call someone. Fu and I called security, and that's how we managed to rescue Hao Qian. Hao Qian was taken to the infirmary. Fu and I left. Today's scene was just too amazing. A few days later, Hao Qian was expelled by the school for spreading rumors and for getting into a fight with Guo. Guo also took a 6-month leave of absence from school and went abroad to study after Hao Qian hit him in a sensitive area. The school sent a letter of condolence to my family. When my mother found out the whole story, she hugged me and cried, feeling that she had treated me unfairly. My stepfather flew into a rage and immediately called in his company's top legal team to file a formal lawsuit against Hao Qian. The court ultimately ruled. Hao Qian was sentenced to detention for a period of not less than 5 days and not more than 10 days, and was also fined 20,000 yuan. On the day of the sentencing, Hao Qian's parents rushed over from their hometown, grabbed Hao Qian by the hair, and knelt before me in court to apologize. Classmate, please cut us some slack, our family doesn't have any money. I'm definitely going to give that little brat a good scolding when I get back. Let's just forget about the 20,000 yuan. Hao Qian's parents were too reluctant to pay, so they insisted on kneeling before me. The security guards couldn't even get them to stand up. Hao Qian was pinned to the ground by her parents in humiliation, glaring at me with hatred. Tang Shui, are you satisfied now? Are you satisfied? And to think I considered you my best friend, and this is how you ruined me? She hates me with a passion. She would love nothing more than to kill me. As far as she was concerned, she had merely made up a few lies off the cuff. It wasn't worth paying such a heavy price. But she doesn't know that in my past life, she drove me to the brink of despair. She was my closest friend, the one I trusted most, yet she stabbed me in the back so deeply. If I were to forgive her right now, how ridiculous it would make my past self and my mother in a past life look in death. I looked down at Hao Qian from above and said coldly, "You brought this on yourself. You deserve to die. I was just fighting back the way you do. Hao Qian, I hope you'll be careful with your words and actions in the future." In the end, I still haven't given up on my claim for 20,000 in compensation. Hao Qian's parents reluctantly handed over 20,000 yuan, then dragged her out onto the street and beat her up. He hit her while berating her, saying he wished he'd never sent her to college in the first place. A video of Hao Qian being beaten was posted online by someone with ulterior motives, and netizens cheered it on enthusiastically. Those who spread rumors should pay the price. This woman has only herself to blame. During that time, Hao also came across the news and called me, but I blocked him a long time ago. He asked many of his classmates if they could help him get in touch with me, but none of them were able to reach me. Maybe one day in the future, he'll realize that all of this was my doing. But back then, who would have taken those college days seriously? After Hao Qian's case was concluded, my stepfather had the principal post the court ruling on the school's official bulletin board. For a while, everyone at the school was especially careful with what they said and did. The spread of rumors has almost completely stopped. I, too, have transformed from the shy person I used to be, who didn't dare speak up even when I felt wronged, into the confident and outgoing person I am today. In the days that followed, I made quite a few more good friends. There are probably people like Hao Qian out there, but with that precedent set, no one would think I'm an easy target, and my life has unexpectedly become smooth sailing. After going through that, I finally understood. In this life, no one goes out of their way to accommodate anyone else, and no one is more noble than anyone else. If you feel wronged, be sure to speak up. Right and wrong are in the hearts of people. Don't let others wrong you, and don't let yourself suffer in silence. I am also truly grateful to God for giving me this chance at a new life. This will remain my secret for the rest of my life.